to be alive. You could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Times are changing everywhere. Do we dream and do we dare? It's up to you. The door is open wide. Feel the rhythm of today. Learn the part and join the play. The world is here. Let's take it for a ride. You could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you could. Larger, larger than, bigger, bigger than, living hopes and dreams. Every boy and girl, higher, higher than, brighter, brighter than, all you wanted. You know, you could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You can have all you ever wanted. Hopes and dreams, every boy. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted. You know you could.
Good morning and welcome to the channel Grand Colombia. This is live from Armenia and this is Coffee Time Live. Kind of off rhythm there, right? Okay, first we're going to start off with the weather. It's about 77 degrees, a little warm for this kind of this time of day. But here we go. Overcast. We're going to have probably thunderstorms this afternoon, maybe even early afternoon. It's feeling unusually humid right now. And it's supposed to be a high of 79 and a low of 64, which will be at 5 o'clock in the morning. And the peso to the dollar is 39.88 as of right now. So we'll see how it goes. It's been flopping around the high 39s to low 4,000s for weeks now. Okay, today, got a bunch of things. I'm going to have some news. Well, I'll start off with some things about me here, a couple viewer things, give you an update on my visa. Then I'll do some news here in Condillo, a little bit in Colombia. And then topic of the day is going to be Uber. And I have half an apology to make when I do that. So let's get on with it. I love that I can get awesome water out of the tap. I love that. That was a thing in Ecuador. They had all kinds of amoebas and parasites, and you had to constantly be on guard and treat things. And I warn you, if video gets herky-jerky and choppy, that's probably on my end. I found it this morning. I wasn't able to pinpoint it. I rebooted, I checked settings, and just then out of the blue, it went back to normal. But I don't know what that was, and I don't know. We'll find out. We'll see how it goes. All right, first of all, I didn't go to the coffee meeting this last Wednesday. I was sick as a dog that day, and I slept more than I've slept in forever. I slept all day, all night, with very short interludes of waking up. That happens to me every month or so. There's some medication I have to take, and I don't know, it just has that effect every so often. So it kind of sucked. But then the next day, Thursday, and since then, I've been feeling great. Okay, and I say that because why weren't you at the coffee meeting? I got some messages and things, so I'm addressing it. Nothing to worry about. Next thing, our friend Turtle, who's in the chat today, he's either moved or he's moving. I'm not sure which it is yet, but he's moving to, you could kind of say country, but it's what do you got? 30,000 people, I think. So small city, town, Pueblo. It's pretty equipped. I went through Google Map and scrolled down the streets and went down to the center, and yeah, there's a lot of stuff there. So let me show you where he's moved to. Okay, here's a map of Colombia, or part of it. Okay, there's Colombia. So you can see where he is. Right here is Bogota. And here's Medellin. Here's Armenia, where the mouse is. You can see Bucaramanga, which is where he is or was. And he moved south. I think he said it was like 2 hours, which means it's probably only like 60 miles to this town. And this town do I have that right? Oh, it changed on me. Hold on. Yeah, basically the same. It flipped over to something else, but so here's the Socorro. And if I back it out here, you'll see Bucaramanga is up here. And so you shoot up here, and there it is. And to look at this place, here's the Facebook listing. Here's the building. And I'll flip through some pictures. What's pretty awesome is, first of all, the price. It's 1,100,000, and it's 120 square meters, which works out to about 1,300 square feet. That's pretty big for here, particularly for one guy. 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom, nice sized living room, big balcony, nice kitchen. Those are bedrooms. It's always built-in cabinets, closets. Looks like an empty swimming pool. So that's the latest news on Turtle. Now, as far as my resident visa goes, everything was turned in. I'm getting updates every so often from Luz, and right now it's under document review. Everything seems to be going fine. And let's look at what the chats are. Now, why is I'll tell you, it's always something. Why is my chat not moving? Chat seems to be locked up. Let me, no, that didn't do anything. All right, well, I had contribution first thing this morning from, oops, let me get that off the screen, from Yuka. And I also had one from Jerry. Thank you very much. And Rob, good morning from Fort Lauderdale. John Sawicki, morning from Seattle. Sebastian, good morning from Aspen, as in Colorado, I assumed. Yuka, howdy. Brian, watching on time today. Nice. It's always better on time. And Turtle, how you doing? Hope you don't mind that I ratted you out. How you doing, Mike? And I can't get to any more chat on here. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Oh, it just came alive. Turtle, January 15th. Okay, so that's when you're moving. Awesome. Libby, good morning from Florida. Libby, if you remember, after I get through all the topics, you asked me a question yesterday, I think, with a list. If you want to know more about that, ask me when we're all done with the topics. That looks like a very nice apartment for that price. It's an awesome apartment for that price. And as a matter of fact, before I get on to the news, let me comment on this. And I don't want to speak for Turtle, but I will say that there's always concern when you have a situation where in the US they're spending money like crazy and the debt's exploded and it affects the world. And some of our inflation that we have here comes about from that. And so when you're watching your dollars get whittled away by inflation, and then on the other side of the coin, you're watching the inflation impact here in Colombia. So you're seeing rents go up. Here in Armenia this past year, rents have gone up about 25%. And in the US, from what I understand, it's about the same. Housing costs 25 or 29%, I saw. So it's a concern. Now, Turtle was living in a very nice high-end place. And my guess is, because we do have conversations about costs, we have to, keep our eye on it because we do have fixed incomes. He may be looking at a situation where, he can pay half the rent that he's paying and live in a nicer place. Because if you go out of the big cities and you go to some of the nicer pueblos, if you can find the right kind, you can have a very nice life there and things are going to be less expensive. Now, inflation is hitting them too, but it's at a slower pace because they don't have as many potential customers for rents or purchase. And so they, supply and demand. If you could jack your rent way up, but if nobody rents it, didn't do you any good. So it always comes along slower out in the countryside. Eventually it will equalize, but it is something that you have to consider. Now, does that mean that we're being priced out of living? Absolutely not. I mean, as a matter of fact, when the world is in this kind of situation, I don't think there's a better place to live because we already had that built-in buffer. It's so inexpensive to live here. It still is. It's just that obviously you want to have as much disposable income as possible. And if you can do that by, switching to a nicer place for less money, then what the hell, right? So that's all I got to say on that. Gary, good morning from the Villages, Florida. Renee, hi from Brussels. How you doing? All right, so now we're going to let's get on with a few topics, and then we'll get to our main topic. Well, a few news items. Love that water. Okay, now this may seem kind of silly, but for some people it's important. I don't really care. Birds are awesome. It's nice. I'm glad they're around. I sort of appreciate them, but there's a lot of people that are into birds in a way I'll never understand. And it's cool. Everybody should have something. So for you bird watchers out there, this is kind of interesting because this is a bird from where I'm from upstate New York, New England, Canada, the brindle warbler. And I don't know why, but for some reason, they didn't know where these birds migrate to. They knew that they fly south, but this particular bird, apparently, it was thought that they went to the Caribbean because that was the lowest place they've seen these before. Now, don't they have these little monitors that they can put on one of them, then they fly and they GPS it? I don't know. But for the first time ever, one was spotted here in Colombia in Condillo. And apparently for bird people, that's really big news because it was not known that they came here. So it's interesting that a bird from where I'm from upstate New York, flies here to Condillo, where I'm living now, for the winter. So there's that. And our next item. Robert, hi, I'm from Montreal. Cool. Okay. Next item. This Sunday, as in today, come to Finlandia, enjoy art, color, flavor, and more. Now, everybody talks Salento. Go to Salento. And Salento's awesome. There's a reason they say that. I like going to Salento. I lost count how many dozens of times I've been there, usually with people because they want to see Salento. but I like it. It's a cool place. But I always appreciated Finlandia more. And it's interesting because just a handful of miles apart, you have completely different geography. In Salento, you're up on a mountain peak, you look down into a valley, it goes over to Cocora, the wax palms. It's, you're climbing the mountain, winding dirt road, and it's Andes. It's typical Andes. You go to Finlandia, and you're driving along this relatively flat area on a nice paved road. And when you get to Finlandia, you kind of drive up onto this plateau, mesa, and the town is relatively flat, and it looks down on these rolling hills. They're very near each other on the map, but they're so different. And I always appreciated Finlandia because, one, it didn't have very many tourists. So if you ride the bus, it's not as crowded. If you're driving, it's easier to find parking. Well, that's kind of changed. Last time I was there, I was actually driving a car. I couldn't even find a place to park, and I drove all over the town. So it's become very popular, but it's unique in its own right. And right now, they're having a festival as of today, and it's from 9 till 5. So there's a lot of artisans that live there, and so they'll be selling homemade, I don't know, gigas is what we'd say where I'm from. These interesting things. They're not so touristy, but it's kind of interesting to look through those things. There'll be food stands and the like. So if you happen, I see the video's getting jerky. I apologize for that. There's nothing I can do. I assume that the voice is coming across. It looks like that's coming out okay. So Finlandia is a pretty cool place. If you happen to be here and try to figure out something to do for today, good place to go. Take your umbrella because it is supposed to rain this afternoon. Okay. Flights are cheap in January from USA. Sprint to Armenia, Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. I saw under $400 round trip with a layover in Fort Lauderdale. That's true. Robert flies out of Fort Lauderdale, seems like once a month. You also have Copa. Okay, next one. I think I mentioned this last week, but I'll mention it again. The lights around Armenia are pretty fantastic this year. You not only you have your sponsored areas, but you have the town is doing more than ever. Everywhere you go, there's Christmas lights. It's pretty fantastic, actually. And if you haven't seen it, scroll back through in YouTube on my channel for Christmases in the past. For several Christmases in a row, I did walkthrough of the Parque de la Vida. I'm seeing a glitch. Tell me if you're seeing any kind of glitches on your screen. I'm interested. It looks like maybe a bad connection. So, or maybe my camera's, God, I hope that camera's not going out. It was very expensive. Okay, so there's the lights. Sorry, preoccupied with this because now I'm panicked thinking that that camera dies. Holy crap. Video glitch, audio fine. So you are seeing the video glitch. Well, okay. That's not YouTube, that's me. Okay, this is in Barranquilla. This is how Christmases live. The largest cribs, aka manger, in the world is found in Colombia. So they set up a manger scene in Barranquilla, and apparently it hit the Book of World Record, largest in the world. I was in Armenia a few weeks back, spent 6 weeks there. Nice, very nice. Okay, ooh. Okay, last news topic. I hope I don't have to end the video early. I got some stuff I want to talk about. But yes, just video problem. Yeah, I'm seeing myself freeze up. And again, it's the camera. And I just saw a whole series of lights across the screen flashing. Something's on its way out. I'm afraid it's my camera. It could be my video card. That would be pretty horrible because that was hellacious expensive too. Okay, let me get on with it because there's a strong possibility I may have to end the video early today, in which case I'll try to get everything fixed up and straightened up. Maybe we'll do a special coffee time. Lack of memory? Nope, that's not it. I checked that earlier. That's one of the reasons I rebooted. I thought maybe something had been set aside. No, the memory's fine. I got more than enough power for that. But it's got to be either a connection, the camera, or the video card. Okay. In the news, Colombia's football stadiums resound to anti-Petro chants. So this is kind of interesting. Think last year, let's go Brandon. That same phenomenon is washing all over Colombia right now. And it's a combination of things. Since they found out that he won the election by only 25,000 votes, I think it was, against his opponent Fico, who is very, very popular in Colombia. And he only won on 2 areas on the coast and in Bogota itself. The entire rest of Colombia didn't vote for him as far as they're turned in and what was the majority vote. Of course, sprinkled throughout, but Fico won all of Colombia except for those 3 areas. Well, people found out about the vote buying, his son confessing, his lifelong right-hand man caught unknowingly on a sound recording, going off angry, yelling about it. He knows where the bodies are buried and all of this kind of stuff. Well, all that information came out earlier this year, so people kind of know. Now, I don't know why they haven't done anything about it. It's kind of like in the US, it's just kind of coasting. but there's kind of a wave sweeping over Colombia where people are just kind of, they've had enough, particularly Video Good Now. No, I've done all that. I get you. We're on the same page. I have done that in the past. No, I'm sure it's the things that I mentioned. And anyway, so this should come across fine because it's not in the. I put together a little video that's a compilation of everything I said. It's got a little scene with Fico in it. There's some memes with Petro. They're kind of cute. And it starts off with the guy who just won the presidency in Argentina. And basically, he was on a board with all these government departments, and he's like, fuera, fuera, fuera. Like he's going to rip down the Department of Education and Department of Diversity and all of that. And that has some ties to what's going on. So let me play, it's about a minute and a half. Let me play this little video I put together for you. Brought a smile to me.
Ministerio de Obras Públicas, afuera.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Oh my God!
Repítamelo, por favor. Se la pasan paseando por el mundo.
¿Cómo está? Buenos días. Buenos días. Buenos días. Buenos días a todos.
Caos y la inestabilidad de Petro, entonces que le suba el volumen al celular del que se la pasa.
Petro, fuera, fuera, Petro, fuera. Lo dicen en Barranquilla, lo dicen en Ibagué y lo decimos también aquí en Bogotá. Fuera, Petro.
Con nuestro rival directo y así la victoria.
Sí.
So hopefully got a smile out of you. I appreciate when people kind of wake up and see what's going on. In the US, everything is left and right. Everything is polarized. And you have a lot of people blinded to the reality because they're so hung up on hanging on to something. Okay, that's in the US. But here, you see the same phenomenon. And you don't have to have an axe to grind. You can see what's going on. I've talked about this guy because he has a history of corruption. I couldn't believe he got elected. He could be on any party. It doesn't matter. It just so happens he's a socialist, and I'm anti-socialism, but it wouldn't have mattered. I'm not that invested here. But to see similarities is very interesting. You have somebody that's corrupt, and you have election problems, and you got money coming from the cartels, prop the guy up. And then you have people finding out and kind of turning on him. And so we'll see how it goes. Okay, we've got, let's see, Google Chrome use a lot of resource. No, that's not it. I'm telling you, it's not. I know it's not. It's down to those three things. My computer is not a weak computer. As a matter of fact, right now, the CPU is using 3.7% of its capacity. Anyway, people vote. land doesn't vote, which is the case in USA, top 10 major cities are blue. True, but I don't want to go there. I'm really talking about Colombia, and it's a different situation. But when people here in Colombia, corruption historically has been an issue that comes and goes, and to see people recognize it and hopefully come out the other side cleaner and better, that's a positive to me. Take a look at this chat and we'll get on to my topic. I stayed in 4 different apartments during my 6 weeks in Armenia. Okay. 360 apartments. I used to live there. I loved it there because I had an entrance straight into the mall. Yeah, that was pretty awesome. In the parking garage, you didn't have to get wet ever. What do you think of the guy who's just elected president of Argentina? Well, he seems pretty awesome. I watched a Tucker Carlson interview of him, and I watched an Argentina interview with a guy out of. I was curious. Excuse me, I just burped. Pretty fascinating. He won. He didn't limp in. He won pretty strong, and right now the people are behind him. He's talking about some major changes, but when you look at Argentina, it needs it. It's for decades. It just keeps running itself down worse and worse. You know, you got like a Venezuela situation, one of the wealthiest countries in the world turned into abject poverty and runaway inflation. Well, you have runaway inflation in Argentina, and the middle class is, you know, quickly falling into poor. We brought my 5-year-old to learn Spanish in a school down the road. He picked up a lot more in only 5 weeks. Just wanted him to mix with regular kids. Okay. All right. So let's get on with the topic. We're going to talk about Uber in Colombia. Yeah, you have to send me a message. If you wanna meet me, talk to me, have a coffee, whatever. You have to plan it. The chances of me out walking around where you happen to be walking around at the time that you are is pretty slim. Although it happens, I run into people all the time that, hey, you're the coffee time guy, which surprises me because it's not like it's a big channel. Although it may become, I have something to talk to you about, but I probably shouldn't talk about it today. Okay, Uber. Well, people have asked me, Uber, taxi, they're talking about Uber all the time, and, you know, I get up on my high horse, and you don't want to get an Uber, and here's all the reasons why. And those reasons are true. They're valid. Plus, they're illegal. Well, here's where I give my half of an apology. They're only half illegal. In 2019, there was a new law. I was not aware of this. So Uber was illegal, and they went and found a loophole in the law that made them illegal, and they enshrined it in another law. When you get an Uber, you're not really getting an Uber. What you're doing is you're renting a car, and the driver just happens to come along with it. On the other hand, throughout Colombia, that situation, it's not illegal for you, but it can be illegal for the driver. As a matter of fact, this last summer here in Armenia, they had roadblocks that took the motorcycle Ratan Motos, I'll talk about that, and what you call Uber drivers out of their vehicles and had them impounded. And you'll find that in much of Colombia. And so what they'll do to try to offset is they'll say, well, ride in the front seat with me, and here's my name. If we get pulled over, act like you know me. Well, you wouldn't have to do that if it were legal. So you are legally renting a car, but it's problematic, and I'm going to explain why. And I've explained this in the past, but hear me now, because what's happened when I talk about Uber is just like in politics. You have people that are so or like Apple iPhone. You have people that are so attached to it, so in love with it, that if you try to say something about it, they can really get upset. They get very emotional. And the information you're trying to tell them, you know, maybe you're trying to be helpful, but they react to it. I had this back in another life. I had a sideline job where I would install network computers and I would go and repair networks. I got a call from a school. And in the school, they had a computer lab. This was long ago. And they had Apple computers. So I talked to the IT guy there. And the reason they had Apple computers is because Apples didn't crash. Apples didn't pick up viruses. Apple, you know, it could do no wrong. Except that's exactly what had happened. It wasn't true about Apple. That was marketing information. Now, it was true that it happened less often back then. If you had regular computer like this one, regular desktop computer, that Windows, for example, that Windows was prone to locking up, and remember the blue screen of death. But Apple also had that. And the more you saw other people's networks and computers, the more you realized it was just less often. Well, at some point, Windows finally caught up. I never get that anymore on Windows. It hasn't in a long time. They're about equal. But if you were to try to tell that to someone, not to slam their Apple computer, but just by informing them, yeah, that can happen, and it's got this and this to be aware of, you could have people get very upset. Well, I have found the same thing with Uber. People get very upset. They say, well, Uber, one, is safer. It's safer because it's tracked and monitored, it has GPS. Flat not true. Absolutely is not true. And I can explain that. You may feel that way, but feeling doesn't make it real. What is it? Facts don't care about your feelings, or whatever that saying is. It's simply not a reality. Now, I don't have anything against Uber. It's just that there's a larger picture here. So what was my argument in the past? My argument was in the past is you have taxi drivers, that's their career. They put a lot of money in getting their taxi medallion. They have to get they have to buy their meters, have those meters inspected, certified. I think it's every quarter. I thought it was once a year, but a taxi driver told me it's like every few months. So I think it's once a quarter. They've got to have certain things done to the car to make it a taxi. They're heavily invested in it. They have to pay certain fees to the government. And they certainly say, they have a placard on the side. They have placards inside the car spelling all the terms and conditions. If you have the placard on the side of if you're worried, you just snap a picture before you get in. You can trace that, but you not only trace the car, but you know who the driver was. The thing with Uber, because you're renting the car, not the driver, what's actually registered is the car. That car could be driven by any one of 25 different people. So you don't really know. Now, I'm not saying everybody drives an Uber is a crook, but what I am saying is it is far easier to operate some sort of crime with an Uber than it is with a taxi. Now, are taxis absolutely crime-free? No, you have the possibility of having somebody doing something, who knows what. But it's very rare, actually. Private driver cars, it's far greater of an issue in Colombia than taxis are. Taxi driver, with his investment, it's his career. He does not want to risk losing that. What's an Uber driver going to lose? Nothing. Like, he didn't have to do anything, just own a car. And so in your mind, you picture how Uber operates in the United States. It does not operate that way here. As a matter of fact, to operate here in Colombia, they actually operate under a different name, which you may or may not see on the app. It's, I think it's called Uber Ya. Uber Ya. Uber Ja. YA after Uber. The app, and this surprised me, so that's why I'm talking about it today, because somebody said, no, I'm using the actual Uber app. That was before I realized that they changed the law. Well, I'm a couple years behind the 8 ball, but that's why I'm catching up with it to give you that information. It appears to be the same app, but it is unique, and there are certain things about it. For example, you don't have in the Uber app in the United States the Raton Motos, but I looked on the Uber app, I downloaded it, I looked through it. You have them here in Colombia. You know, you don't have that there. So there's clearly differences in the app. And I went through and looked at a number of things, and I could see there are differences. But the interface, everything that you wouldn't realize that. So I'm here to tell you that. What is a moto raton? Raton moto. It's motor rats. It's these guys with a motorcycle that will come and pick you up and take you where you're going for less money. So I looked at a trip that I know what it is. I've done it many times, from here to another place. So I look at that, and the taxi is always about 8,500 pesos. On the Uber, came up with a price 8,700. Okay, it's in the ballpark, it's close. And the motor rat was 6,200. So I could ride a motorcycle for considerably less. And so you find that. But most moto rats are in the barrio, and they're not advertised, they're not in an app. You just know who they are, and you say, pick me up every morning, take me to work. And they can be dirt cheap. They can only be, they can be as low as like 1,000, 2,000 pesos. So that's pretty inexpensive. The Uber, people tell me there's two things. Well, they know Uber and trust it. Uber's safer. Those two things combined. But then they also say that it's cheaper. Well, I did some digging. I looked on some forums where people talk about the cost of running from the airport, not here in Armenia, but Medellin. Because in Medellin and Bogota, the police mostly leave it alone. So if you're in Medellin, you use Uber, chances are you're not going to be hassled by the police. I won't say that about the rest of Colombia. I know firsthand. I've seen it here, where they'll impound your car, but there. And so I see taxis have set prices. So in other words, what's it cost to go to the airport? Regardless of the meter, it doesn't matter. It'll be, I'm going to make up, let's say 80,000 pesos to go to an airport. Okay, so that's what you pay. With the Uber, it's not a set thing. It depends on a number of things. What time of day? It's got a fluctuating price. With a taxi, it includes the toll that you have to pay. It's part of it. With Uber, sometimes they include it, sometimes they hit you up. And from what I could read, most of the time they hit you up. I saw this one thread where somebody was complaining, and about 2/3 of the people that commented out of 100 and some people said that, yeah, they charged me also. And then other people said, no, they never charged me. So you have this lack of standardization, lack of rules, kind of up to what the driver wants to do. I don't think that's the best thing. And like I said, you know, when you've got a situation where he says, well, sit in the front seat and act like you're my friend, it's like, well, if you were entirely legal, that wouldn't really be the case. And then you look at some of the crime that takes place in Medellin, because this is where, when I dug, that's what I found. You hardly ever see an instance with a taxi. However, with private vehicles for hire, like Uber, and there's a lot of, here in Armenia, for example, there is a WhatsApp group page that's their own Uber. There's no membership or anything. You just sign in and you say, okay, I have a car, and somebody says, I'm looking for an Uber, I'm going here, and people just respond. It's like an informal Uber. So you have these private car situations other than Uber. Everybody's trying to get in on it. A private car situation, because it doesn't track the person, what's to keep them from driving you down some alley where somebody is waiting and you've got criminals there that open the doors and, you know, rob you and you get dumped off somewhere? Well, in the Uber, here's the information. Well, good luck with that. Good luck with following up on it, particularly since the police aren't all that fond of that situation anyway. So if nobody really wants to, you know, it's like, well, that's what you get for using it, kind of thing. And so I saw a number of situations like that. I don't know. I look at it, even if it were less, and it doesn't seem to be less except once in a while. But these taxis, you know, generally they're older guys. They're, you know, they got family. They worked for years to have what they have. And, you know, they're doing everything right, and they're paying their taxes, and they're doing all the things that they should do. And then you got somebody that comes along, and just for the sake of an app and a car, he's taking the same money as that taxi driver who has all of these expenses. So for me, that's always been the thing. Whether Uber is legal or not, I just don't think it's right. I don't think it's fair. And you can't even say, well, the Uber, he's taking into account all those things he doesn't have to pay, so the fare is half the price. So I'm doing it because I need to save money. But that's not the situation. And like I said, I just looked up on the app, and it was actually 200 pesos, which is not much, but we'll say it was the same price. So I'm taking it away from the taxi driver and giving it to the Uber driver. It just doesn't seem right to me. But they did change the law. I was not aware of that. And the people that I was talking to, they didn't know because they hadn't been here before. They probably thought, well, I'm just making up that it was illegal. No, it was up until 2019, the entire situation was illegal. Well, now it's a car for hire. You're renting a car is what it boils down to. And if you're in the back seat and riding like a taxi, in Medellin, they don't seem to be bothering anybody. In Bogota, I read that they don't bother people. But in the rest of Colombia, that can be a problem. It can be a problem. Free market capitalism. Yeah, I get that. But you do have exceptions when it comes to things like public transportation. There are certain public things that people don't really have an issue with. You know, buses that are handled by the municipality because they can do it more efficiently, and they do in most places. And you have things like taxis. Well, what if those Uber drivers run those taxis out of business because they took the business and it's gone? You know, there's no more taxis. They couldn't afford to stay in business. Well, where's your transportation? Is Uber going to take over? You know, maybe they will, maybe they won't. Whose taxis some of the fees that they pay go to things like roads and things like that. So you're going to have to now get that money out of Uber. And then when you start charging Uber, and you're going to have people getting cheated by the Ubers, so you're going to have at some point laws to counteract that. And then you end up with Ubers being the new taxi. It just doesn't make sense to me. And I'm all about capitalism, but there are certain things that are for the general welfare that I think you do need to protect to some extent. So I hear you. Uber's fed a lot of people that otherwise would not be able to make a living. That's well and good, but it shouldn't be off the backs of somebody else. So that money that they're making, this other guy who invested in that and worked years for it, it was taken directly from him. That's not fair. That's not an improvement. All you're doing is shifting the money from one to the other. And the one worked to deserve it, and the other one didn't do anything. Did absolutely nothing except sign up on an app. Megabus is the best. They're pretty cool. We don't have them here in Armenia. I like that we have we have the short buses, but it's pretty cool. It's better for traffic. It's better for, we get less pollution. A lot of them are actually operate on propane gas. Oh, I saw something. I just want to mention it. I saw this sign. There's a gas company here, propane, natural gas, that you can take your car and they will convert it to natural gas, and it's free of charge for the conversion. And then you could buy natural gas instead of gasoline, and natural gas is cheaper. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Got nothing to do with Uber, but I just thought I'd mention it. What do we have here? Getting drugged can happen to even locals. Probably one of the reasons so many people don't stop to help with directions. I think that was part of a conversation I missed. Scopolamine, drugging can happen anywhere in Colombia, but mostly happens where prostitution is more widely available. I have to argue with half of that comment. It doesn't happen anywhere in Colombia. It happens primarily in Bogota and Medellin. It started in Bogota. It does happen, I agree with you, mostly where tourists go, where foreigners are, businessmen. As far as where prostitution is more widely available, prostitution is legal in Colombia, so it's widely available everywhere in Colombia. But I also agree with the fact that it tends to be tied to the, well, actually, no. It's not the prostitutes that people are having problems with scopolamine. It's the girls that they're meeting on Tinder or other apps is where the problems come in. The prostitution thing kind of relates to the Uber versus taxi. Prostitutes are operating legally, and they're getting physicals, medical certificates, and things like that. So their job is working for a company. And it's not to say that a prostitute wouldn't do that, but the instances where it happens are almost always related to girls that people met on Tinder. On Tinder, you meet a girl, and all the information she put up can be false. But if you meet with a prostitute, it's not. Because if a prostitute comes to your hotel, for example, she has to register at the desk, and she has to register with her legal ID, and they record it at the desk. So would it make sense that a legal prostitute would come, register ID, have employment record at the business, go up, drug you, and rob you? You would know exactly who it was. You know, kind of like taxi versus Uber, where if you meet a girl on Tinder, she fake name, fake age, total fake information. You have no way of knowing who she is, where she is. You don't know what to report to the police except, well, she's got brown eyes and she's got dark hair and she's about 5'4", and it's like, okay, that's like 98% of Medellin, you know. So again, it's an issue. Uber drivers have told me that Uber has raised their standard of living. Of course it has. I'm not arguing that. What I'm saying is it's doing it off the back of the taxi drivers. And the taxi drivers are invested in safe, reliable, cheap transportation for you, where the Uber drivers have invested nothing but signing up for an app. I'm not saying they're bad people. I'm not saying maybe in some situation I might take an Uber sometime. But all the reasons to take an Uber they're not real. They're safer, not true. That there's an app for Uber. And what do I do about taxis? The taxis have apps. We have one here in Armenia. It's, if you look for an app, put Taxi Candio. And I think that might even be the name of the app. Works fine. You don't need it. You don't need an app because everywhere you go, they'll call you a taxi. Where you live, you know, the taxis are everywhere. So getting a taxi is not difficult. But, you know, so where's the advantage? I just don't get it. Armenia has the safest prostitution area in Colombia. I like the third floor. I don't know what that is, but I don't. It's legal here, so I don't know. It's not unsafe. So I don't get that. I find more Uber drivers speak English than taxi drivers. I haven't taken a toll. I've never ridden in an Uber here. May be the case, but again, it's a non-issue. Before I could speak enough Spanish to get around, I never had problems with taxis. If I wanted to go somewhere, I would screenshot the address, and when I get in the taxi, I'd show him. I've been taking Uber 3 months here in Medellin, never had a problem. Taxis are dirty and smelly. Some are. I won't argue that, but all of them, no. But yeah, that can be a problem. Sometimes you get a taxi driver that, you know, it's like, dude, replace this car. It's a piece of crap. It's a 4-story building in Armenia. I don't know about that, honestly. I do know about a high-end escort business owner in a number of cities, including here in Armenia, because he came over and introduced himself when I was in having lunch, and he heard me speaking. And so he said, "Oh, you're an English speaker." And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Oh, can I sit down and have lunch with you?" Well, sure. He was practicing his English. And it was fascinating. We ended up talking for a couple hours, and I asked him, like I do with everybody about everything, I asked him a million questions about his business, and I learned a lot about it. I've never felt the need to use the service, but on the other hand, you know, it makes perfect sense for people to use something safe like that rather than do things like go through Tinder. But I never really talk about those things because it's not really my world. It's too easy to find just local friends, and you can have dates or whatever. It's just it's not difficult. So, but more power to him. You know, his primary source of customers are businessmen. He said mostly they come from Bogota, but they're businessmen. And his primary source for girls are college students. We should set up a little business. No, I'll pass. Not my world. And it's not that I'm a prude. I really am not. I don't care what people do. It just doesn't bother me. It's not something I did. In the 6 years I was in the Marine Corps, it was just never my way. I would go find a girl like just a girl, and pick her up, talk to her. Maybe I'd have to go visit her a bunch of times, like if she was working in a restaurant or something. And that was when I was young and handsome. So I got old and fat, but you know, I was all over Asia, and it was not that difficult. People are very curious, and so they would actually be a girlfriend for whatever period of time, be it a week or 6 months or whatever. So I was kind of, I was kind of a dog, I guess, but I never. I don't know. I always had this weird image of being with a hooker. It just yeah, it's like it would be kind of it's just not me. I thought you were a loner. Well, I am very much so. But I've explained this many times. I'm a loner in that I don't socialize very much, but I make it a point to meet people and keep my circle of people to a certain size or maybe even bigger. I don't let it shrink because people move away, things happen, and so you have to ever be vigilant on that so that if I need something, I know somebody to call. And sometimes I'm not a loner my entire life. Maybe I want to go do something Tuesday night. Well, it's nice that I know a handful of people and I could call one of them and somebody would be available to go with me Tuesday night to go do something. But, I'm here, I live alone, and, I think for my own sake, for my own health, for the medical things that I deal with sometimes, it would be better if I had somebody live here. But how long have I been talking about that? Especially after I practically died last January. I felt like I should, but here we are coming up on the next January and I still haven't done it. So because when it all comes down to it, I don't know that I want to have somebody around. So what I need to do and what I should do, but what I want are kind of at odds here. All right, we've run the hour. I'm sure all you Uber lovers are still upset with me, and I can't help it. I'm just speaking how I feel. I don't say this casually because I knew that some people I'm going to annoy them with my opinion, and so I really did a fair amount of digging. I spent hours actually looking through old newspaper articles, Facebook page where a lot of people what I have discovered is, particularly in Medellin, you'll have guys that will make claims about crimes that are either grossly exaggerated or never happened. So I take that into account. But I did look, and what I found is what I'm telling you. So take a look yourself. Anyway, do what you want to do. Understand the situation. If you're in Medellin and Bogota, Uber, chances are you're not going to have any issues. You're not going to have any problems as far as the police go. But I'm here to tell you, and I've seen this firsthand, that here in Armenia, Paeta, most of Colombia, you'll have police that will stop and take that car from the driver. You'll get out and have to go get a taxi. It won't be on you. It'll be on the driver. See, the driver is collecting an income for him. Well, I don't want to get into it. I don't want to go too deep into it. Do you live on the south side of Armenia? No. I live at the very north border, Oro Negro. And in a few months, I'll be moving again, and I'll probably be moving back to Centenario. Just have somebody check in on you now and then. Yeah, it doesn't really work, because if last January with what happened to me, it all happened, it all escalated, all went to crap very quickly. And if it wasn't for a series of luck, if somebody had come to check in on me, it would have been too late. But I've thought of that. South of Parque Sucre is not the south side; it's the center. Well, it's south. You know, it's still a direction. It's still south of it. We come in this world alone, leave alone. Yeah. I like being alone. I enjoy my own company. And I can be, you guys should have figured out, I can be pretty obnoxious. And I'm pretty stubborn. And not only for my own sake, but for other people. I don't want to be offensive to other people too. And, you know, so I think it's best to take things in small doses. For me, it's way south. Okay, I don't know about that. There's a question. Would anyone know of an honest Colombian tax service that would be able to answer tax questions? I talked about one probably 2 months ago that for the first time did a YouTube video that was actually true about taxes in Colombia. I would contact them because certain things, when it comes to a lawyer, when it comes to accountants, it's so hit and miss. There's so many bad ones. It's hard to find the good ones. But by the sheer nature of the content that they put in that YouTube would give me some support in the idea of using them, because what you'll find is a lot of people that are kind of shady, which is most of them, kind of like real estate agents, real shady, is they'll blow things out of proportion to justify charging you too much. But when they're actually being honest about the information, they're giving you real, true information, then that would give me some confidence in the rest of it. My apartment is next to Parque Sucre, best place. Need a taxi everywhere. So what? Let's say I go out every day. So it costs me $2 a day. Big deal. Or I could take the bus. You know, I have a bus every 5 or 10 minutes outside my door. Literally 10 feet from the guard building. So I could take a bus. That's 70 cents for a bus ride. No, that's not the issue. I'm not saying where you are is bad. That's actually there's some nice places there. I looked at a couple apartments there before I moved here. And Oro Negro isn't my favorite, so I'll give you that. And I explained why I moved here. It all had to do with dealing with an agent and getting some information. And I'll be moving away from here. On the other hand, this is not a bad place to live at all. It's certainly not inconvenient. Why are you moving again? I thought you were happy with your new apartment. Only been a year or so. Well, we're coming up on a year. Well, actually, I think we're just over the halfway mark. It's a nice place. I'm not unhappy with it, but it's not where I want to be. I know where I want to be. The problem is when it comes time so I can rent without getting locked into another contract. I only have a window of about 4 weeks. And it just so happens that the place I want to go to, they're not available. This last time I get here, it wasn't but a few weeks later, boom, there's a place I wanted that opened up. Great. and that's what happens a lot. So, you know, everywhere I've lived, I've enjoyed. This is great. It's not where I want to be. I ultimately want to be somewhere. And it doesn't have to be a particular place. There's a couple choices that I have. There's basically 3 or 4 different places that if I got there, I'd be really happy, content, probably want to stay. My first place, I stayed for 2 years. but I was really sick of it by then. But the nice thing about renting is you can do that. What's the big deal? Moving is so cheap. I mean, it doesn't even cost me $100. They have somebody come with helpers and a big truck, and they load everything up, and they take down the beds, and they set the beds back up, and I don't have to do anything except take a taxi to my new place and wait for them. So, is the airport getting another update? I can't find any information. I know you said it. Yes, I talked about it maybe, I don't know, a few weeks ago. They're going through a huge remodeling. They've purchased, they have 3 times the land now that they did have. They're bringing in a lot of airlines. They're extending the runway so that they can have more true international flights, as into Europe. Spain is a popular destination, so we're going to have direct flights to Spain, for example. We're going to have direct flights to New York. I think it's like 6 or 7 airlines will be coming in, and so that's going to take a lot of, you're going to have hangars and maintenance, and a lot of that is going to be constructed, and it'll be mostly done sometime next year. Some of it will drag into 2025. They don't mess around here. So there's going to be a lot more flights, and the airport's going to get larger, and there'll be more services here for the airlines. It's pretty cool. Taxes for expats. I'm not sure what that is. Is that the name of that video? I don't know. Oro Negro, very close to school. San Luis Rey, almost took my kid there. Okay. I'm looking to buy the new apartment in front of you for my second apartment, the one that they're building right now. Yeah, I don't know how that's gonna. I think that's what you're talking about. Across the street, I've shown a couple times. I showed video clips of them building. They're up at their highest point. They're done with that, and looks like they probably got another year before they're going to open. I don't know what they're going to be like. I don't know if they're going to be small, big. I have no idea. But yes, okay. But this area is growing. Now, I was disappointed. There was a place here that I talked about in some videos that had some nightlife, a whole bunch of restaurants. It was a very cool place. So it's called the Oro Negro Mall. It wasn't really a mall, but it had a big bar and pool tables, and it was a cool place. Well, that got closed down, and they've been remodeling, so it's all covered up. I have no idea what's going on in there, but everybody that had restaurants and various businesses got kicked to the curb. Well, half a block away, where it's kind of outdoors, but they put up these small buildings next to each other with patios and things like that with an amazing view. You have some of those businesses, and you've also got some new businesses. So it looks like there's a bunch of places to eat. It's not the same. What was there was pretty unique. It was very cool. But I will take time sometime this month to go there, kind of check it out, maybe do a little video about it. But the area of Oro Negro, I used to absolutely hate it, because back in the past, when I actually stayed in one of the buildings there was absolutely nothing here. And to do anything, you had to go into town, which was kind of annoying. And speaking to what you were saying earlier, it's like we have to take a taxi everywhere. Actually, no. I mean, I've got 3 supermarkets within a few minutes of walking. There's a lot here. I've got a whole bunch of different restaurants and things like that. That didn't exist before, but it is here now, and it's changed the entire nature. Plus, they're putting up these buildings. This one, Matisse next door. You've got a whole bunch of other ones. The one this gentleman is talking about. You've got some others. So it's a different area. Things change, and all the reasons that sucked before don't really exist very much anymore. Now it's kind of a cool place. As a matter of fact, for younger people, it tended to be a happening place, the Oro Negro Mall. It was like a destination. So you need to do another street walk around Armenia. Yeah, I don't know why. I've done it. You want to see me walk around the street of pick a barrio? I've done it. I've walked almost the entire city of Armenia in videos in the past. I hear you, but I actually have a series that I'm trying to set up right now. And it will be something different, but it'll be upload videos. It's fun. I've done that. I do other things. But I have a series that I haven't decided for sure yet, but I'm thinking about starting here in Armenia, going to different cafes that have their own coffees, and go with somebody and have them, test them, talk about the place, anything unique about it, compare it, maybe hit 2 or 3 places in the video, then do some more and see if I can do some of those in Armenia. There's some amazing cafes here. And then go to other places. Like when I went to Pihao, there's a cafe there. He has his own brand of coffee. There's quite a story about him and the coffee and the farm. To focus on coffee, a lot of people are interested in coffee. And to go around Candio and go to the farms, visit the cafes, and really go more in depth on coffee. I've learned so much about coffee since I've been here. And I don't think it's important that everybody knows a lot about coffee to enjoy coffee. But there's a lot about coffee that's fascinating to learn, fascinating to know. And it becomes more of an appreciation. And the more I learn, the more I appreciate certain qualities about coffee. Now, in order to do that, I need to find somebody that has the time available to do that with me. I prefer it be a female, because if it's going to be somebody on camera, 98% of my viewers are male. And of course, who doesn't want to look at a pretty girl? She doesn't necessarily have to know English, but it would be nice if she knew some. But the biggest thing is most people I know have jobs. And how do I do that? How do I work that in? So that's something over the next few weeks. Hopefully by the new year, I'll have some solutions to that, and maybe I can do it. I can't afford to pay them to do it. As you see, I'm panicking, thinking my camera is going out. I have enough money to live and things like that, but I don't have enough money to pay somebody to go do that. I mean, I'll buy their coffee and stuff. That's part of it. But if something comes to fruition this coming year, I would be able to pay somebody to do that. So we'll see how it goes. You can find a pretty girl, 3rd floor. Okay, la 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 la. All right, we're 15 minutes over. I'm glad the camera held out. I'll see if I can resolve it so I don't have to live in pain. It was really distracting me. You could probably tell. I was very distracted through a lot of this video because I see things here that you don't see. But let me if you look here, stream is healthy, excellent. All right, we're gonna end it here. Thank you all for being here, and looked like we had a nice crowd for a while. Here's what it looks like outside. And now I'm going to say goodbye. I will see you next week. I do appreciate it. I got a couple comments, couple suggestions. I appreciate it. I'm formulating how my next year is going to go. I want to be more active. I'll keep doing the coffee time. I really enjoy talking to you guys. It's more like you're actually here and I'm actually visiting with you. It feels that way. That's why I'm comfortable doing these. But I want to start doing more video uploads again. I got away from it because of the editing. But I've gotten some ideas recently, and it's kind of energized me. And if I can get somebody else on the camera, maybe be the face of it, the Grand Colombia coffee girl, then I'll probably go in that direction. So anyway, I will see you next week. Ciao.
Oh.